Good morning and welcome to Pine Needles Quilt and Sew here in Rochester, Minnesota. We are kicking off the first day of the Minnesota Quilt Show, and it is a virtual event this year. If you have not purchased a ticket, I believe you still can. Just go to the minnesotaquiltshow.org website and get your ticket and check out all the wonderful educators and vendors that are there. Speaking of vendors, thank you so very much, BERNINA of America, for sponsoring our booth for the BERNINA domestic machine line. Over the next 4 days, I will be offering live broadcasts and giving you little snippets and introductions to each of the machines in the BERNINA lineup. Be sure to keep on watching and check out the overlockers as well, because truly they shine on our best friends with a machine in your sewing room. Ahead of the live feed, we'll give you a little taste of what's coming up on that hour, but you are not going to want to miss out. Also, today is Wednesday, and we will have our regularly broadcasted Marcia and Joy show at 1 o'clock. However, Alyssa will be playing the role of Marcia today, and she'll be joining me here later today at 1 o'clock. This morning's feature is going to be the BERNINA 880. We're starting at the top of the line, but what I want you to know about BERNINA is that they are a 4-generation family. They have been in the sewing business for 4 generations. That is longevity and commitment to excellence. It is a Swiss company, and you know the Swiss. They are precision picky people, and that is to our benefits as sewists and creatives, because we can get the most amazing things coming out of our machines. And the other thing about a BERNINA is no matter whether you purchase the top of the line machine or the entry-level machine, the quality things that matter most to a precise stitch is the same in all machines. We are going to explore that over the next 4 days, and I am so excited to be joining you here. Now, as we go along, if you have a question, please go ahead and post that in the comments. I have someone monitoring this feed so I can answer those questions as we go. Again, I am Joy from Pine Needles Quilt and Sew in Rochester, Minnesota, and hopefully if you've been thinking about a new machine or just wondering about the BERNINA product, we can answer some of those things today as we go along. Now, one thing I want you to know is that Pine Needles has created some fun bundles, because that's kind of our thing. We like to give back to our Pine Needle peeps. We love to have you as our family. And with a purchase of this 880 sewing machine, we have some free gifts that we're going to include. And let's take a close-up look at that. So one of the items that we are going to be focusing on, or featuring, excuse me, is this BERNINA accessory bag. And I love this bag, and this is coming with any of our machine purchases. Excuse me, I have this tag in the way. It is a convertible laptop bag, and it carries all your go-to supplies. It has plenty of space to put your scissors and your goodies, but inside the bag, it's not just the bag. You are also going to receive a walking foot with the purchase of your 880. That is one of the favorite feet of many piecers. You're going to receive this very comprehensive book, excuse me, called BERNINA's Big Book of Feet, and it features all the different feet. Later in this week, I will be talking about there is a foot for that, so be sure to check that out later. And you will receive also the 1/4-inch seam foot 97D. And that's just some things to help your creative life be more fun as we go along. But in addition to these gifts, you also get to choose from one of our exclusive Pine Needles bundles. So let's take a close look at those. So first of all, here's a little montage of all 5 gifts that you could possibly choose. And let's go take a look at another one. So we have the piecing bundle, and this will make your piecing life really happy. It has our favorite essential tools. Next up, we have the pressing bundle, and that will make you a pressing rock star, whether you're in your studio or on the go. We also have the quilting in the hoop bundle, and I'm going to talk a little bit about why you would want an embroidery machine during this broadcast. We have the ruler work bundle because many of us would like to be able to finish our projects like a pro. And we have the embroidery bundle because this machine, the 880, comes with an embroidery module, and these are the essential items you need to get started. So those are just a few things you can get as an and more. But let's talk about this beautiful machine that I have in front of me. The 880 has 12 inches of space from the inside edge to the needle. And it has 5 inches of space here. So there's plenty of room to piece larger quilts on this machine. And there's lots of nice room to roll that quilt up and do your own free motion quilting, either completely freehand with the BERNINA Stitch Regulator that does come with this machine. We'll talk a little bit more about that shortly. But also, you can do ruler work easily because you have all this gorgeous space. And my favorite way to quilt is actually in a hoop. And look at this ginormous hoop that you could use to quilt in the hoop. This will give you professional long arm look on your domestic machine, on your time frame, and on your time schedule. So that 12 inches of space is really lovely. That's one of the things that I do love about the 880. Now the machine in front of me is actually the golden edition. It's my personal machine. Excuse me while I set this hoop down so it doesn't go clattering. The one that we would have available for you to purchase does have a black front on it, but this is the one that I have here to show you today. Underneath here I have these turned off because the lighting would be too bright, but this is full of LED lights, so even at night in a dark sewing studio space, you have gorgeous light to highlight the area you are sewing. In addition, we have a very nice removable tray that comes with this, and that gives you lots of room to support your projects. And one of the things that I love about these slide-on trays is that they have a clear window. This machine does have a front-loading bobbin system, and BERNINA is the only sewing company in over 40 years to create a new hook system in their machine. This particular one has a front-loading bobbin system, and what I love about this is that it presents itself so it's easy to pull out the bobbin and to replace it. There is no bobbin case on this machine. It's simply the Jumbo Bobbin. And the Jumbo Bobbin, let's have a close-up look at that, is huge. It has mirrors for the sensors, but this bobbin holds 3 times the standard bobbin thread, and that gives you plenty of thread to create for a long time. This little bobbin box is also available to purchase at our store if you are interested. Anyway, let's go on with the bobbin. With the front-loading bobbin system, the thread is held right below the surface of the stitch plate. So when you are ready to start and take that first stitch, that bobbin thread is waiting right there to join up with your top thread. It makes for the most precise stitches possible. It also allows this machine to have a 9mm stitch width. This is a wide creative area to have for decorative stitching. And there's another feature I want to talk about in just a moment. But I want you to think about this. When your thread is right there ready to go, there is less likelihood of skipped stitches or missed stitches, because if you think about a drop-in bobbin system, the thread has to travel 360 degrees around to complete a stitch. On the BERNINA, it's simply needle down, needle up, and you have your stitch ready to go. The other thing is if you've ever run out of thread while you're working on a project, it's nice not to have to take the entire project off to replace the bobbin mechanism in here. There is onboard bobbin winding, and with the 880, because we have this thread stand, it is not necessary to unthread the needle thread. You can simply set another spool of thread on the side pin and wind your bobbin. There is adjustable bobbin speed on here. So if you're working with stretchy fibers, like I like to work with metallic threads, sometimes I like to work with elastic threads, you can slow your rate of fill so that you get a nicely even wound bobbin to work with in your machine. Speaking of threads, did you know you can put great big threads in here? Later on I will focus on applique on this machine, but you can put 12 weight threads in here, no problem. You can put them in the top thread, reduce your top tension, large-eyed needle in the bottom, and you can make beautiful applique wool work using traditional threads like Valdani, hand-dyed threads, the spaghetti thread or the fruity thread by Wonderfil, all work beautifully in this machine. Also with the threading, we have automatic threading. So when we start at the end, it's simple path, just across, down, into the thread cutter, push up a button, and we have automatic threading on this machine. And I really appreciate that because I tend to sew at night and my eyes are getting older, and that easy, never have to worry about threading my needle is there for me. So those are a few highlights here. Let me put this back on. Now about feed dogs. They're kind of an important part of our machines. And one of the reasons BERNINA machines are so powerful is that they have a box feed system. When you think about how your feed dogs move through your machine, many machine companies are elliptical. They touch only once, and that's only one point of contact to draw your fabric through. On a BERNINA, from the top of the line all the way to the entry level, we have box feed dog systems, meaning when your fabric is under your presser foot, it's going to pull your fabric the entire length of your feed dog. That allows you to easily sew through very thick things. Let me reach behind me here. And we're talking about multiple layers. The machine easily sewed through all these layers of stabilized fabric with a trim, with perfect stitching, because it has that box feed dog system, but also it has a DC motor system. A DC motor system is direct current, and with the gearing in the machine, even when you step through one stitch at a time, you have ultimate power and penetration of your needle with every single stitch. There's no need to ramp up your speed to go through thick layers. The machine is going to do the work for you because the gearing is set up to power through whether you have very thick layers of fabric or you have very delicate layers of fabric. The machine can do it all for you. Do we have any questions on our end there? Nope, no questions. One of the other things about the feed dog system on the 880, and it is unique to this particular machine, is on the back. The dual feed system is not unique. Many of the models in BERNINA do have an integrated dual feed system, and I'm going to just take the foot off here and give you a closer look. It drops down from behind, and it allows the machine to feed the fabric through the middle. This gives us better control of our fabric. So think about the times that you have been piecing triangles, things that are on a bias that have a stretch. With the integrated dual feed, when you engage that, it helps feed the fabric from the back, and it allows your top and bottom fabrics to end at the same spot without having one slip forward or one slip backward. The unique feature on the 880 is that it can be adjusted. So you can increase the rate of speed or you can decrease the rate of speed. When piecing triangles on my 880, I often like to bump that speed up to 2. And what I find is when I am at the end of a seam, I have a perfectly flat pieced piece. So think about your piecing. When you're done, does your piecing curve up just a little bit because the stitches have drawn your fabric up in the stitching? On the 880, when you increase that rate of feed, your pieces come out completely flat, and that makes for less pressing when you're done. Also, sometimes Some fabrics have more stretch than others. Having that ability to make that change is a really nice plus on this 880 Plus machine. So when you're not using that dual feed, it simply pops back into the back. It's small, unobtrusive, and mighty. With the feed dogs, one of the other things that I love about this machine is that it can sew in any direction. It can go not just forwards and backwards, but it can sew bigger than 9 millimeters. Now 9 millimeters is about 1/3 of an inch across, but on this machine it has multi-directional sewing. And what that means is that the feed dog system can walk your fabric left and right, it can go diagonally, it can go forwards and backwards. So let's think about those handbags. If you've ever made a handbag where the handle is, you have that reinforcement stitch. Usually it's a box stitch with a diagonal line. And if you're creating a handbag on this machine or any machine, you have all that bulky fabric in that one concentrated point. When you stop with your needle down and you have to rearrange your bag to get it to go, it's sometimes a struggle, and sometimes it's a frustrating struggle. But with this machine, you actually can activate the multifunctional or multi-directional sewing, and that will change the direction of your sewing without having to change the direction of your bag. Here's another thing to picture. We have all of this space in our open arm system. If you've ever had to patch a pair of pants because their knees have worn out, and being the mother of 3 boys, I think they wore holes through their pants every single week. This was a struggle for me. And with this machine, you can put that pant leg right over the open arm system, and as you're going low, rather than trying to bunch up or squish up all that fabric underneath here so you can get a nice long patch, you can actually again change the direction of your sewing, and the machine will do it for you. Now I have some samples here that I did yesterday. I was playing a little bit ahead of time. Let's take a look at these. So 9 millimeters is actually quite small. It's about 1/3 of an inch. These are some stitches that are built in to the machine, and they are possible because the machine can stitch beyond its normal borders. There are entire files, I think there were 5 actually, that have multi-directional sewing as a feature. With some of these designs, imagine you have a quilt. This is almost 2 inches across. You could easily put this on the border stripes of a quilt, and that would be a really nice way to finish it off. You can have professional results without having the hours of practice it takes to get nice even swoops as you are quilting. I also love, let's take a look again, the ability to choose a large letter to make a single monogram. I didn't need to attach my embroidery module to create this. I simply chose the letter and let my machine do the work. So those are some fun things concerning how your fabric is fed. One of the things I love about this machine is that it has a centrally located screen. It's easy for me to glance up and see what my settings are, but even better are the knobs that are on the exterior of the machine. If you have ever done any applique or stitching where it's getting a little bit tricky and you want to fine-tune your work, you don't need to stop and make changes on your touch screen. You simply can reach over and use your knobs, and you can make those adjustments to stitch length and width right as you go on the fly. The other thing is as you're sewing, I often have my needle stop in the down position. You can make changes to your needle position left and right, and you do not need to put your needle up first, because when you do that, if you have something that's held in there and you're using your needle as your third hand, having needle down allows you to make your changes, and then the needle will do the needle dance to go ahead and start sewing. Now I have a few other things. Now this machine does come with an embroidery module. I'm going to reach over here. And this allows us then to create custom work, whether it would be quilt labels, creating quilting on a project. In a moment I'll give you some examples, or maybe you want to create artistic scenes. There are many things you can create with an embroidery module, including zipper pouches, pillows, home deck, all sorts of fun things. You could even make buttonholes using your embroidery module, and it's super easy. Some of those things I'll be highlighting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in my Why Embroidery feature. You might want to check it out. I'm going to move that off to the side. I mentioned quilt labels. This was created right on the front of the screen here on this touch screen. You get several alphabets with this machine, and one of the features I love in the ability to create stitches is the ability to curve my baseline to make a shape with the underside of my word, and that is part of word art that is found on the BERNINA 880 sewing machine. Now in the sewing side, one of the things that I love as well about this machine is that we can make changes to our stitch settings, whether it be length or width or both. And often when you're creating a project, you'll switch between a straight stitch, maybe a zigzag stitch, maybe a decorative stitch. This machine remembers those settings while we're sitting in front of it, so you can go between a straight stitch and a zigzag and back to straight stitch, and it will remember how you had that stitch set up. You can also permanently alter that stitch. For example, as a piecer, I often like to have a shorter stitch length. Mine favorite is the 2 1/4 inch stitch length, and I make some other adjustments as well. Once I have these set up, I can make my number 1 stitch, which is my straight stitch. I can have it as the default stitch, so when I turn on my machine, it's all ready to go the way I love to sew. You can do this with any of the stitches in the machine, and if you wish, at any time you can make adjustments using your knobs, or you can set it back to factory reset. In addition, with the memory, we have personal files, so if you have a favorite setup for your blanket stitch, you can put it in your favorites file, or on the 880 down in the lower right corner, we have a history of the last 24 stitches that you have created. And here you can find some stitches that you maybe even did a couple years ago if you wish. It remembers the last 24 stitch choices that you stitched out, and you can easily access them from your stitch history down in the corner. So that is another wonderful feature of this machine. This machine comes with the BERNINA Stitch Regulator, which is an amazing tool. It is a accessory foot that goes on the machine, and for free motion quilting, no matter whether you stitch fast or slow, this will regulate your stitches so you have beautiful even stitches every time. It takes the learning curve out of that process so you can create what is in your mind on your fabric. In addition, with the plus feature being a full embroidery machine, we also have extra editing features on our embroidery side. So there of course is software to do it all, but on the full embroidery machines, the editing features are more. You can break designs apart, you can take things away, you can create your own designs with a single image, you can easily duplicate items, but the favorite feature is pinpoint placement. Because no matter how careful you are to hoop up a thing, it sometimes gets a little kitty wampus, and of course you could always use your editing functions like rotate, but with pinpoint placement you can hoop it crooked and stitch it straight. You can also reduce or enlarge something with that function, and you can align things. If you've ever tried to put a monogram on a towel band, this is your best friend, that pinpoint placement. Some things we do with it is we allow us to do multi-hooping. I'm going to show you that briefly, and then we'll be wrapping up this session in a moment. When we talk about pinpoint placement in quilting in the hoop, this table runner was quilted on the 880. It took about 20 minutes. It was 5 hoopings across. Super easy to finish this up in an afternoon. Also, at Pine Needles, we bring in educators from across the nation to give you the best education opportunities. And one of the things we have, excuse me a moment, is Claudia Donnell will be coming to our store this fall. This is one of her creations. And she specializes in multi-hooping and helping you figure out how to pinpoint place things so you can align things easily across your design. The larger your embroidery project and the more hoopings you have, the more challenging that can become. But with pinpoint placement, it's super easy to do. Now, to help you reach your dream possibilities, we have the BERNINA summer sale options. We do have financing available. Let's take a quick look at the summer savings that we have. So first of all, we have so much savings. On the BERNINA 880, you will get an additional $800 off our Pine Needles pricing, and that is a gift from BERNINA to you. And the suitcase systems are half off. To make this easy to afford, we also have financing available beginning Friday. We have 0% financing for 48 months on purchases $2,000 and over, and we have 0% interest on 60-month financing. You can certainly get those things pre-approved. On our website, Susie, our owner, has made an easy-to-access financing application. If you will go to pnqs.net, underneath the Minnesota Quilt Show tab, you'll find all of the machine bundles that we have and those extra gifts. I'll review those in a moment, but at the bottom you'll find the application to finance a machine. I cannot list the prices for the machines here on this broadcast, but all of my colleagues back at Pine Needles are ready to take your phone call, take your email, and help you find the perfect machine. We have, let's just as a recap, with this machine, you can choose one of the 5 bundles that Pine Needles has put together as an extra gift. Let's take a look at those. And with the purchase of this machine, you will receive this bundle of goodies that we have picked out as well. So thank you for joining me. Remember, if you have any questions, post them in the comments. I will be live again at 10 o'clock, and the feature machine at that time will be the 790 Plus. We happen to have the limited edition that is being featured today. And remember at 1 o'clock to tune in for the Marcia and Joy show with Alyssa as her stand-in today, and we will give you a highlight of what's new. We have some fun techniques to share with you, and of course the ongoing clue to the table runner. Thanks for joining me this morning. Again, I'm Joy from Pine Needles Quilt and Sew in Rochester, Minnesota.